Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are back on the Updates Direct Hit dev server, and it's time to have a look at the naval vehicles that are going to be coming into the game in Updates Direct Hit. The first one is the USS Pittsburgh. This is a Baltimore class ship. There was a Baltimore class which was actually an event vehicle before, the USS Baltimore, and now the Pittsburgh comes in as the second. It's going to come after the Brooklyn, so the end of the line here, and it is slightly different from the Baltimore, basically with its secondary armaments. So the main armaments, obviously 3 sets of triple mounted 8-inch guns, then it has 6 5-inch dual sets of guns on top of that, plus 10 dual mounts of 3 inches, like these guns back here. So the secondary armament, there is a lot of it, and they also are large caliber guns as well. So the actual second set, so the 5 inches do get access to HE and also get access to HEVT, so they're going to be great at dealing with stuff like aircraft even at longer range. Also, what the Pittsburgh has is a system which a bunch of naval vehicles are going to have in the game, in the form of this search radar and also the new way of calculating the distance of how to actually aim. So they're adding in a new sight in Naval on top of all of the other changes that they've done over time. I'll actually just let my gunners annihilate the guy up there. But basically what you do is you do this. So you measure the range through the general ship. This is the new aimer that they have. You can see that you have this little thing here, which shows you kind of the drop of where these shells are going to go, and then you just wait for it to measure the range, and then once it's measured the range, it will tell you exactly basically where to shoot, and then it will update the range every once in a while. You can see it shows that little green arrow, and if you line it up, then it says, yep, you can fire. If you fire it over here, then it's not lined up, so therefore you shouldn't fire there. So because I'm not moving this will go straight at the ship, probably a little bit over it, just because of how it's set up. Never mind, it's clattered it. But if you move, let's say, then while it's updating the range, what it'll actually do is this little, I suppose, arrow pointing down will move with you, because it calculates the lead that you need in order to fire on the ship at the central point. So you can see here, now that it's moved, because we've started gaining some speed. So if you struggled with aiming in the past in Naval, this is something to go for. So there we go. Let's line it up and fire, and hopefully, because of the correction that it's given us through the system, we'll be able to hit it. Pretty simple, really, you know? And this will be, you know, automatically calculated. Seems to work with the majority of ships. I've tested it on some of the newer ones recently, and it's just the new way that they're going to do some of these updated ranges. So I think this will be quite nice. You still can correct it if you want, so you can see right there. We can correct it by -200 if we want to, and then it will give us an updated range, and then we can just, you know, line it up with this. And I don't think those are going to hit because it hasn't updated yet to the correction. And there we go. So yeah, that's pretty much all you do on it. It works very well. And as I said, this Baltimore class has a ton of large secondary weapons that are going to be really good at dealing with smaller machines, and also they're going to be very good at dealing with machines which are far away when it comes to aircraft itself. The Pittsburgh is coming in and it's looking fantastic overall. So there's the new aiming system in Naval. It's slightly different, I believe, when it comes to arcade. It has like a little bit of an indicator, but I'll show you that in a later video. When it comes to Germany, Germany actually gets access to 2 new machines. The first one being the M17. This is going to be a coastal fleet machine. It's going to be between the AFD-3 and the Jaguar. It has access to 2 105s, so they'll be able to hull break or overpressure, whatever it is, vehicles such as PT boats, and also it has access to a quad 20mm plus 2 single 20mm as well. Also has access to a bunch of mines if you want to bring them along, and some depth charges as well alongside it. It should be a pretty fast boat. Obviously the main thing is the nice quick, well, they're not hugely fast firing, but they're decently fast firing 105s, which will be able to pop stuff as it goes. It does also have access to the 105 SPR-GRL 4.4, the BDZ. So it gives you a little bit of extra penetration that might be a bit more useful against stuff such as destroyers. Also a HETF round, so you can use that against planes if you feel like. Then we also have the Karlsruhe, and this is the Kern class premium. Basically it's very similar to the Kern. And if you don't know what the Kern is, it is right here in the tech tree. It is a light cruiser, a battle rating 5.3. You can see it has the offset turrets at the back, and also so does the Karlsruhe. Both of these are part of the same class of ships, the K class as they're known, and it has access to 3 sets of triple mounted 150mm guns, 3 dual sets of 105mm, 4 dual sets of 37mm, and 8 20mm as well. So a decent AA combo on it, and also has the little plane in the middle, and as we saw on the last dev server, maybe eventually they'll add stuff like the scouting plane things into it, which would be nice. Also has access to torpedoes, gets 12 of them, which is pretty cool, and you can get some AP or even some APC-BC when it comes to the main guns on this machine. So if you're looking for a premium that you want to grind out the German tech tree with, pick up the Eugen. It's a much better option. But at least the Karlsruhe exists now, and you don't have to grind through it. Then you have the USSR. They have access to a new premium destroyer at 4.3, the Smelyi. This is another Project 30 bis destroyer. They made a ton of these post World War II, did the Soviets, and you can see here it has a beautiful camouflage on it, has access to 2 dual mounted 130mm guns, has the 85mm dual mount as well right here, and then 4 dual mounted 37s. It also has 3 dual mounted 25s for that extra little bit of AA on it, and also does get access to torpedoes in the form of 10 of them. You can get 60 mines on the machine if you feel like it. Feels like a little bit of an overkill, and also an exposed ammo rack, but at least it looks cool on the machine, and maybe at some point we'll be able to use that. The general machines that we see, like the Smelyi, the Bezuprechny, was added last update, and it's very similar to the Smelyi, just tertiary or AA differences, like AA gun differences, and I'm glad to see this premium. I think it will shore up the 4.3 lineup pretty well, and hopefully people enjoy it. Then we have the Pariskaya Kommune, or the Paris Commune. In English. This is a massive machine. It is part of the Sevastopol class, and this actually is the Sevastopol. The reason why it's called the Pariskaya Kommune is when the Soviet Union took over from the Russian Federation, this was the machine that they renamed to that. This is also a World War II refit for it, so this is the first battleship that we have in game that actually has a decent AA on it. You can see on the turrets here it has access to 37mm, so this thing has 4 triple mounted 12-inch guns, 16 120mm in these blisters that you can see here, then also 6 76mm and 16 37mm on the turrets themselves. So these are going to be very devastating, and also the first look at a ship which actually is a very big bruiser, but also at the same time will have an AA component. One of the things about battleships, which, you know, a lot of people talked about, was the fact that they don't have access to AA, which is very true. But when it comes to this machine, you can see that it does. So this is the first step into those very interesting areas that we're going to have, where battleships don't just have aren't just very good against ships, they're also very good against everything. You can see the AA there, so the 37s can turn on the major turrets, and you can also see we're measuring the range and doing the correction for it already for this ship here, and it still lines up the little area. So even with this ship, which is a very old one, it has obviously the, you can see here, the rangefinder on it. You can do the same thing as before. So it's pretty much as simple as that for a lot of these machines. So it isn't just specifically for machines with stuff such as radar and things like that. It is also for pretty much every ship that is in the game. So there is the Sevastopol, or the Parizhskaya Kommuna. The British actually get a bunch of additions to the game. The first one being the HMS Norfolk. This is another county class machine. We already have a county class in the game in the form of, oh boy, which one is it? Is it the York? Oh dear, I've made a boo-boo. It's one of these. I just can't. Oh, the Kent. There we go. So we have the HMS Kent already. The HMS Norfolk is another county class of a different batch. It has 4 dual-mounted 8-inch guns, then 4 dual-mounted 4-inch guns, two sets of octuple 40mm and 8 single 20s. So it actually has those octuples on it. I really like the octuples and how they look at. You can see them here. They are also on the HMS London. They sound awesome when they fire, and it is just really cool. Now, the county class doesn't have a ton of armor for a destroyer, but it's okay. And also, it does have access to a variety of rounds for the 102s, and also it does have APC-BC for the 203s, which are the major guns. You can also get 8 torpedoes on this thing if you want to use them as well. So pretty similar to another machine we have, just a different subclass of the county. Then we've got the HMS Vega. So the HMS Vega is actually the new reserve in the update direct hit, and it's the new one for the Blue Water Fleet. It's replacing the HMS Churchill, which I think is fair, because the HMS Churchill is trash. It's a really terrible machine. But I believe if it's going to be the same as how we've seen other vehicles in the game, if you purchase the HMS Churchill, you know, you pay the bit of SL for it, or even just crew it or whatever, you'll be able to keep it, and then the Vega will come in. This will still be available. So the HMS Vega has 2 sets of dual-mounted 4-inch guns. These are generally good, quick-firing guns, and also do put out a decent amount of damage. They are the favored gun on stuff like the Hunt class that you see. I really enjoy the Hunt classes. I think they work really well. So to see this thing come in with them, and also 420mm on them, shows that this is a much better reserve compared to other machines such as the Churchill. It also has access to some depth charges, doesn't have access to any torpedoes, but will be a fine reserve compared to the Churchill. Then you've got the LE Orla. This is an Irish machine. It's actually a premium in the coastal fleet, and it is pretty much the same as the Peacock. It is slightly higher BR than it, and the reason is because this actually has secondary armament. It has access to 2 20mm plus 4 7.92s, whereas the Peacock only has access to the 76mm that you see on the front. So the Orla will be a very nice premium to be able to get through the coastal tech tree. I generally have enjoyed the coastal tech tree, even though it shows here I haven't researched it. I have on the live server. The only issues I've had are the fair miles, which aren't too fun. So very nice to see it. Also has a beautiful camouflage as well. The last one, and my favorite, is the Fairmile HLCS. This is obviously the landing craft support vessel that the British made, or at least one of them. This is a Fairmile machine which has access to weaponry which is designed to be used in landings to support the troops going in. So it has access to a Valentine turret on the front with a 57mm gun on it. It also has access to a mortar that you can see here, and the bomb mortar actually does fire pretty far. on it. It does have 50 rounds as well, with a mass of 9 kilos and an explosive mass of 2. You can see there max armor penetration is 25 and the radius is 21 meters. The actual mortar itself won't be that useful, but it is quite fun. There's also two 20mm on this machine in the center, and it does have a dual mounted 12.7mm Vickers that you can see on the back. And just to show you that like measuring distance thing that we've seen is for every ship. It's not just for the the big ships with the radar and stuff. You can see here that even this, it has the correction and all of that. The only thing it doesn't have, since this thing doesn't have a rangefinder, is the measuring distance idea. So that is something that you're going to have to be careful of. You can also see that in the bottom it does actually give you how long it's going to take this gun to reload. So you can see it's 6 seconds long, and the more actual guns that you have, the better it's going to be to work out. And here's the mortar. It's just the guy in the front just popping them down, sorting out business, and I think that's actually pretty cool. So yeah, I like this machine. It's going to be a little bit of fun, especially in arcade, at long distances, and also a bit of AA support as well. So then you have Japan. Japan have two machines. You got the Yubari. The Yubari is a new premium machine which is coming in for Japan. It's going to be in the Blue Water Fleet tree and going to be a rank 3. It is a light cruiser, battle rating 4.7, with a main armament of two dual mounts of 140mm, one on the front here in this large box, and then another one in an equally sized box. It also has a single 120mm here on the front, which is kind of interesting, and 8 25 single millimeter guns, then 3 triple mounted 25s and 4 dual mounted 25s. So it has a lot of AA, but in my experience the 25mm aren't that good. They generally don't put out too much firepower, so I don't think this thing has the best AA compared to some of its compatriots, but it's not too bad. It also has access to 20-kilometer torps, which should be really nice in the higher modes, and then also has access to SAP, HETF, and also HE as well. So should be pretty useful overall as a premium to be able to get rank 1, 2, and 3, and 4 of the Blue Water Tree. Then you've got the Ioba. This is a heavy cruiser which is coming to the game for the Japanese. If you want to see where it is in the tech tree, it's going to be on the left hand side behind the Tone and after the Agano. So this has access to some pretty large guns. It's basically 3 dual mounts of 203mm. Then also it has 4 single 120s on it as well in the center, and then a ton of 25s once again, 15 single 25s, 10 dual mounted 25s, and then 5 triple mounted 25s. So this is another one of those Japanese cruisers that they just filled with 25s to try and stop the Air Force from America killing it, and guess what? It didn't work. The 203s have access to HE, AP, and also HETF. If you want to try and use that, it does get torps once again, the Type 93s, and you get HE or time-fused HE for the 120s if you want. Unfortunately, you can't change the 25mm, but it kind of is how it is. So this has a lot of guns on it, but generally, you know, the guns are not the most useful, being only 25s at the end of the day. They will be able to deal with machines which are closer to them, which will be nice, so at least you have that. They are equally spaced on either side of the machine, so no matter where the plane is coming from, you will be able to do damage to them, but you can see here that it does take a while to be able to deal with it, so that's not the best, unfortunately. This thing does have the rangefinder on it. You can kind of tell this by if it has like the little rangefinder area on it. Most of the larger ships do, which will be very fun. So means that it'll be easier for you to shoot at a distance. Then we have Italy. Italy have 2 ships of their own. We have the RN Leon. This is adding to the 47s for the Italians, which there are already many of. You've got the Regolo, the Trento, the Coleone, and the Etna. Now we have the Leon as well. This machine has access to 4 dual mounts of 120 guns, has 2 40mm, and also 2 dual 13.2s. So it's very main gun heavy, doesn't really have too many secondaries on it, which will be that useful. And also, it does get access to torpedoes in the form of these 533mm steam ones. Only go 12 kilometers, so they're not going to be that useful either. It does have these racks on it, so I'm guessing it could be used to put mines down, or maybe depth charges. My guess is mines though, and then depth charges in here, or something similar to it. We're going to have to see if they get added at some point for this machine. But overall, this is a machine which is probably not the best, but as a 4.7 will have a bit of use. It's basically a heavy destroyer because it doesn't have that much armor. It's got okay speed and pretty nice main armament. Then you've got the Gabbiano. The Gabbiano comes in for Italy. When it comes to the coastal fleet side of things, it's actually going to be the end of the line at rank 4 for the right hand side of it, and it does get a 100mm on the front. It gets 2 dual 20mm and also 3 single 20mm on the vehicle itself. It also gets access to a bunch of depth charges, and also it gets access to the 2 torpedoes, but the torpedoes are absolutely terrible. They only go 4 kilometers, and before the torpedo mode they only go 3 kilometers. So yeah, this thing has awful torpedoes, but I suppose in a closer area they may be a bit more useful. We'll have to see as it goes along. So those are the new vehicles coming to the naval side of things for each nation. A lot of cool stuff, especially for the British. Hopefully you enjoy it, as I will. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank BRFC, Swollen Ostrich, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Conte Baraka, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Lafouche, Barine, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.